There is always some sense of want in the human mind. Some sense of incompleteness which man wishes to fulfill. The satisfaction which the human being derives from external physical objects by means of his senses. The eyes, ears, sense of taste, sense of touch and the sense of smell is accompanied by much pain and sorrow. First and foremost, the hankering is there. As long as desire is not fulfilled, a person has no peace of mind. And then exertion starts in order to fulfill that desire. If the exertion ends in failure, he is disappointed. If someone crosses him when he is exerting to fulfill a desire, he gets angry. If any other man has got that which he has not got, then jealousy comes. After an object has been acquired through much exertion and overcoming all obstacles, fear starts in his mind that the object may get out of his hand. Then the anxiety to keep the object safe arises. Anxiety and fear, when these two are there, no peace can be there. After these exertions, fear and anxiety, if the object goes out of his hand, sorrow comes. If once the mind gets attached to an object, immediately desire starts. Exertion, anxiety, fear, disappointment, sorrow, all these follow. The mind never gets rest. The very nature of the mind is desire. Constantly thoughts come and they are at once helped by imagination, and imagination takes the form of a desire. Then willpower comes into play. It gives orders to the various organs, the hands, feet, etc., to fulfill the desire. From memory thought comes, and thought at once with the help of imagination takes the form of a desire. And once the desire is there, the mind is at once at work. How can I fulfill it? Now the I, or self-arrogating principle, comes there. Then the determining faculty appears. Then action, exertion, anger, jealousy, fear, anxiety and disappointment follow. Disappointment comes because in imagination our conception of an object is one thing, but when we actually get it we find that it falls far short of our expectation. The reality is different from our conception of it. This is the case with 99% of our experiences. Conception is one thing and the actual experience is another thing. And at the end we realize that all names and forms are perishable and all relationships are temporary. When the objects leave us, or we leave the objects at the time of our death, we experience sorrow. We must try to get beyond sorrow through getting rid of our desire for sense objects by subduing the indriyas, 5 senses. How to subdue the indriyas, 5 senses, and how to free ourselves from the tyranny of the mind is taught in yoga. Yoga is the method to enable us to go beyond the experience of sorrow, anxiety and disappointment, and to take us to the highest spiritual experience. Let us see what are the fundamentals of yoga, why it is that the mind goes towards objects and why desire is the nature of the mind. Is it possible to stop the process of the mind? These are the next considerations. The ancients tried to find out what was possible for man to do with this thing called mind, through which so much sorrow and other limited experiences result. How did they set about doing it? What is the fundamental thing that is being worked out through yoga? Here we have to consider the state of the human being. They found that human being is a curious mixture of 3 ingredients. We all know what we are. We think. We make use of our intelligence, reasoning, and logic. Man is a rational being. So we know ourselves as human beings who can think, coordinate experiences, infer, and come to fresh conclusions, and who are endowed with intelligence. But then there are times when certain urges get hold of us, and we immediately forget all about our intelligence and logic, and we become very much like an animal. When there is a violent fit of anger or jealousy, we behave like any other animal. When a man is under the grip of a violent fit of anger, he may go and murder a person, which no man in his normal human consciousness would do. Then after some time he himself is aghast and thinks, could I do such a thing? When the human faculty or human restraint is blown off, then the subhuman element takes full control of the personality. This happens to everyone. And our ancients found out that this is also a fundamental part of man, but it is only suppressed in some human beings. This Asuddha Manas, impure person, is there in every person, sometimes under control and sometimes not under control. All the while we have to remember that the real man is not the body, mind or the intellect. Actually, man is a spiritual entity. He is immortal in essence, full of pure existence, knowledge and bliss. That is the true nature of man, Satchidananda, blissful. His real nature is not like a piece of stone. He knows, I am that I am. The bliss of self-awareness is the fact of man's being. Being consciousness bliss is the definition of the real self of you all. But this consciousness is covered by the mind and the senses. And man says, I am doing this, I am full of sorrow, I rejoice. He identifies himself with the body and the mind. Man is constituted of three ingredients. There is his essential divine nature, then there is the animal nature full of tamas, darkness and bestial qualities, and in between these two there is the human nature. Sometimes, when he is in the company of saints, pure feelings come. At other times, when he goes into bad company, bad feelings come to him and he feels like getting out of the place. Man is tossed about between his pure self and impure self. There is on the one side the pull of his higher divine self, and on the other side, the pull of his lower, animalistic self. His own bad habits, friends, environments, etc. tend to keep him on a lower state. So, the fundamental problem before yoga is to somehow or other enable man to liquidate his lower self, the animalistic and gross nature. Every time the human element says, I must go up, and the lower self pulls him down. Purification is the purpose of yoga, so that there may be no bar for the divine consciousness to manifest itself. When the mind is fully purified, we can partake of that wonderful experience of the ever-blissful self, which is our true essential nature. They call it Swarupa, which means one's own nature.